And you know, this is something peculiar because we are such a small country. We are a country with 60 million people, geographically in a very small place, by the way. But you know, we are still competitive. We are still in the G7. I don't know for how many days, but because India and you know China, India already passed us, but a lot of other emerging countries are now not more emerging, but they are they are developing, and so they are running after us. But you know, we are still in the G7, although we are very, very small in terms of million of people and from a geographical point of view. So this is a very important chart that I would like to focus your attention on. These are the industrial structure of the made in Italy. So this is, you see, the pyramid should be like more flat, because the vast majority, we just focus here. I don't know, probably you don't see that number so much. So the 95% of the companies in Italy, they have less than 10 employees. So we are a country of small firm, very small, right? So the vast majority of our companies are small, between 10 people and self-employed people. We have 4 million of self-employed people in Italy working. And the medium companies between 10 and 49 employees that are still small from an international perspective are just the 5%. And then beyond 50 employees, there are just a few companies. So if you compare North America and Italy, just they are one the opposite of the other. So North America is the country of large companies. We are the country of the small companies. So we are small in terms of people, also in terms of companies. But that had an impact in the industrial structure and even in the design industry as well, that I will explain later on in a minute. So this is not just an economic phenomenon, but we have to deal with. Has a lot of implication in terms of the way we approach design and the way we produce our culture as well.
Yeah, I would like to highlight how much this is, sorry for interrupting, how much this is so important. It looks like a sort of statistical issue, but it has to do a lot with the way how creativity has been spreading, and it is still spreading around, and find somehow connection with production. So everything is somehow spread out in the territory. So all these small and medium enterprises, they're not just everything, they're not concentrated in a hub, but somehow spread on the territory. But at the same time, they have some kind of networking collaboration one each other. So if there's a company who is good to make the brakes, like Brembo, for example, that might help somehow Ferrari or maybe another automotive industry to develop their car. So it's a sort of proactive, synergetic way of producing, and also creativity somehow is connected with this kind of system. This is so important, and I wish you somehow will study that and think about that also for your for the work you're doing, because I think it's not this does not only an economic value, but it's also a value for the way the designer they do organize while being interconnected with the industry.
Oh, sorry for no, don't worry. It was a very important point, by the way. I didn't mention at the beginning, but if you have any question, please just ask. Probably you arrived in Italy and you realize that something that a word that is not used in Italy is standard. I mean, you don't find anything that is standard here. Everything is different. If you go to Rome, it's different from Florence, that is different from Venice, and you change the city, you change food, you change people, you change way of interacting. And this is part of our culture, of course, but has very important impact in the way we organize production. And because we have so great amount of small firms, we are able to produce a lot of different products. So, the key word is not standard for our industries, but producing something that is different, that is close to the needs of the customer. So, our companies are trying to adapt to the needs and to the requests coming from the market, that instead of imposing their products and their approach. And because they are small, you can do that. If you're big, if you're large, it's hard for you, because you're not flexible. So, we are not big, but we are flexible. So we are able to produce different things. We were able to be, in the G7 and the G10 and to export the vast majority of our GDP, because those firms were not isolated from other firms, but they were organized in a specific way called the Italian Industrial District. So we invented, also from an economic point of view, this way of organizing production. That is a specific way. In English, we have another word that is called cluster. Cluster is where you have an agglomeration. It's in a specific spot, geographical spot, you have an agglomeration of firms. Here in Italy, the industrial district is an agglomeration of firms, but with specific characteristics. One is that this agglomeration is characterized by firms that are specialized in the same industry. So you went to Murano Island. There you find just blowing glass companies. So we have specific geographical areas where all the firms that are specialized in that industry are concentrated. If you go to Milan, and very close to Milan there's an area called Brianza, is where you have the highest concentration of furniture producers in Italy. Very high hand. Alright. If you go to Bologna, you have mechanics Ferrari, Lamborghini, Ducati, and many others. If you go to Vicenza, to Bisazza, around Bisazza, there are other concentration of companies specialized pretty much in the same things. If you go to Belluno, that is not far from here, it's about 100 kilometers in the north. You have the highest concentration of eyewear industry in the world. Luxottica, that is the biggest company in the world producing eyewear, is located there. And there are other companies specialized in the same industries. So, this is one key concept. So those small firms are not spread, by chance in the territory, but they are highly concentrated, and they are closely related together in the same industries. And the other element is that they share the same culture. What I mean by culture, it's the same language. So people know perfectly, if you go to Belluno, they know how eyeglasses are made. They know all the specific details, the technical details. So when you are hiring somebody, he knows pretty much, the kind of industry he's going to work. So that is a very important element, because that's something that's specific. It's hard to replicate in other parts of the world. The other thing that we are famous for, of course, is that because we have such small many firms, the richness is somehow distributed. It's not concentrated in just few hands. So that's something that a lot of countries are looking to Italy for these specific models for that reason, because it is more sustainable from a social point of view. Because you're not the high concentration of richness that you have. Of course, you have large companies, but it's distributed because you have small and medium companies. Right? So also this is one important element that is always a lot of other countries are looking for, because it's specific element of it. So let's make an example. If you go to Sassuolo is a very small city that is close to Bologna. It is in the right in the in center north of Italy. There you have the highest concentration in Italy of producers of tiles. So all the companies pretty much produce tiles. They do not produce fashion, they do not produce food, they do not produce furniture, they produce tiles, that's it. And there you have the highest concentration in Italy of companies that produce machinery for tiles. So we have like an internal B2B market, business to business market, where we sell machinery to other companies. And it's easy to produce machines because you are so close connected to your customer. So we have companies producing tiles and just around the corner, companies producing machines for tiles. So that's a very important element. That is always a strict, we are interconnected. So, as you may see, industrial districts are not spread all over the country, but they are concentrated in the center-north part of the country. So pretty much the part of Italy you are going to visit. It's not by chance. You're going to visit by focusing on design, because design is spread, is related to this kind of production structure. It's hard to find interesting design case studies in the south of Italy, because design is strictly connected to the way we produce things. We produce our output, our fashion, our textile companies, our machineries, our furniture.